This is the story of my dad, DJ Joe Bond. Do it, Daddy!
I always loved music, even as a little kid. I remember riding in the back of my parents' car. They had this giant brown Buick, and they would sit there and listen to these songs from the 60s and 70s. I grew up in the 70s. And I remember Marvin Gaye and the Temptations and Gladys Knight and the Pips, and just riding in the back of their car were some of the earliest memories of music I had. Around the age of 13, I guess, is when I really started DJing and actually getting paid to do it. And I remember somebody approached me to DJ one of these teen club dances at maybe the rec center or something in Wilson. And so I had like a dozen records and my parents' home stereo, and I took it out, and I remember setting it up. So around 16, I remember getting a phone call from the local DJ in town that was kind of you know, the #1 mobile DJ in Wilson, and he asked me if I wanted to buy his business, his equipment, all of his contracts that he had booked. And you know, without even thinking about it, I said absolutely. And the next thing I know, I'm hooking up his trailer, and I've got this big trailer full of gear, and I'm off, you know, starting my own business. So back when I was a kid, I used to come to this place right here on the corner, and it was called Valley's Record Store then. And there was a guy, he was a DJ that worked there. His name was Mean Rod Dean. And every Friday I would come in and I'd say, oh, I got a show tomorrow, Rod. I got to get some records. He would go through and he'd pull all the records, stack them up on the counter. I'd take my bag of records out, and I'd get to the door, and every time without failure, he'd look at me and said, do it right tonight, Joe. Every time. I loved it. So after I graduated from high school, I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I carried all my gear with me in hopes that I could DJ like a frat party or just a random bar gig. And about my sophomore year, I finally got an opportunity to do a frat party, and it was just crazy. I remember just people hanging out the windows and being piled on top of each other in this sweaty frat basement. And literally overnight, it turned into me playing 4 or 5 nights a week and still getting up and going to class the next day. It was insane. So in the mid-90s, I finally graduated from Chapel Hill, and I really didn't want to play in the frat basements. I didn't want to be up until 6 in the morning anymore. And that's when I started doing the club gigs and learning to mix a little bit better, and just really trying to perfect the art of DJing. So I did the club gigs really through the 90s into early 2000, but I just hit a point where I just didn't want to be out in the clubs anymore. And that's when I started thinking, you know, how can I keep doing this? It's so in my blood, I can't give it up now. You know, I've been doing it since I was a little kid. How can I keep doing this? And that's when I started thinking about doing weddings. It just made sense. It just was the natural progression for me to go from a club DJ into a mobile DJ or a wedding DJ. So I started becoming more and more popular as a wedding DJ, more so than a club DJ. And that was probably early 2000s. And I remember thinking to myself, every time somebody calls you and you turn away that call, they're still going to get married. They're still going to get a DJ. Why shouldn't I be the one to provide that DJ? Over the course of just a few years, it went from 1 guy to 4 guys to 8, and now 15. I honestly just love to DJ weddings. I mean, there's nothing like that feeling when the bride and groom come in the room and everybody stands up and goes crazy, and they hit the dance floor, the bride hands off her bouquet, and they go into that first dance, and you've just got that moment when everybody's attention is on the bride and groom, and you know that you're just a small part of that day. And then it goes through the whole night, and you do a great job, and the dance floor is packed. And right before the bride and groom leave, you know, to their big sparkler exit and their car waiting outside, that they come over to you and literally give you a hug because you made their night. You know, you were the entertainment. You're what people are going to remember 50 years from now. Honestly, I said earlier that music was my life, but at this age and the way I feel now, there's nothing to me more important than those 2 little boys and my wife. The weekends with my family are also something that are so important to me. Sundays when I'm off and we get a chance to just go out and have lunch together, and then I've always got a game plan, whether it's, you know, going to ride go-karts or going fishing or flying kites or running remote control cars. We're always doing something from the time that they get up, which is very early, until they finally run out of gas, and I do too. Almost every day I run into people that I grew up with or people from college, and they'll come up to me and go, "Hey man, what are you up to now?" And I basically just look at them and I say, I'm still doing what I always did. I can't imagine doing anything else. I'm DJ Joe Bunn.
Now you can say, "I know Joe."